This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Yeah, I was gonna. It sounds like, unlike G1 and G2, G3 is a little bit more unique in the fact that, according to the background information, the players are now, at this point, they've actually left the prime material plane and are entering. I'll read it here. It says they are about to venture into the hot and smoking barrens, which are in effect Muspelheim, the home of the fire giants. And then they go through a little bit of description on the landscape is cindery and smoking and hot, and there's a dim red light for basically the sun is casting this just abnormally red, dim, ruddy light across the landscape, and it should just be very depressing.
Well, yeah, it's just.
Well, guys,
because there's no other place that I can think of in Greyhawk.
I don't know.
Hold on a second, guys. Looks like we already started recording, and we're already on issue number 152. Starting the show off with a little G3 talk in the background. So
yeah, and a little
Hey.
a little dissension. I'm not sure about
That's all right.
this.
That's customary for the show.
Yes. It all depends on how you interpret the words in effect. Does in effect?
That's true.
Exactly. And as the DM,
Depends on what you
it's
mean
up
by
to
the
you.
word is.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that they're essentially saying that by this point, the characters have left the prime material plane. That's how I'd run it. That's how I'd interpret it. Nick would interpret it differently. If you are going to run it from the prime material plane, I would do a little research then, because I haven't been able to find a place in Greyhawk that fits this.
Well, they have. There is a. They give a hex.
Let's save
They
this
give
for
a
the
hex
beginning segment.
Okay.
Let's save all this for the beginning segment. And let's just get on with the show, beginning stuff. And we'll save all the juicy stuff for when we get inside table manners. You guys can argue out there. So as you hear, we're doing G3 today, but we have to get all the other things out of the way. Yeah, that is DM Vince here, sitting with Chad.
Hey.
Nick.
I disbelieve.
And Matt.
Hello.
And obviously we're doing G3, as I said yet again. But we have a couple things to get out of the way. Nick, we have any stars this week?
No new stars this week, sir. Continuing on.
Gaming. Who wants to talk? Anybody doing some good gaming lately?
I'm doing my, as usual, we're still running In Search of the Unknown via play-by-post on Mythweavers. I'm running several of the old school gaming website Forumites through it, and they have finally made it into what is called the Tower of the Unknown, which they're actually coming through underneath it. So they're going through these weird system of caves. They're having a good time.
Tower of the Unknown, huh?
Yeah.
That's what I call it. That was because that's one of the things I love about In Search of the Unknown is you have a lot of freedom as a DM to flesh it out to fit your campaign, and it becomes a landmark within your campaign. So in mine, it's situated right in the center of the Welkwood, which is like a highly dominated forest. It's a fairy forest, and they've found out that a newcomer has moved into the forest, and you have the Seelie and the Unseelie court, at least in my campaign, and they've stopped their little civil war because now they're both concerned about this new guy, the new master of the Tower of the Unknown, who's been doing some strange things that's affecting their forest. And the party is now trying to figure out, on behalf of both sides, what is going on, and they've promised the lords of the fairy realm, the Fey realm, that they will try to end the actions of Zalgar, the master of the Tower of the Unknown.
Zalgar.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower of Power.
The Tower of Power.
Anyway, cool.
Yeah, it's we're having a good time with it.
So I had a situation this weekend where I had a new player that took his ball and went home because he was a big crybaby.
About what?
So I have a new guy who comes into the game, signs up last minute, comes in 10 minutes early to roll up his character.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably in his, late 40s, early 50s. He's a little bit weird. And he hardly hear anybody because every time we ask him a question, he kept going, what? But anyway.
Well, I've never heard of a role player that was a little weird.
No, never happened.
This is beyond the weird spectrum. This goes above and beyond. He wanted to play an illusionist gnome, and I said fine. He didn't qualify, and he cried about that because I only gave him a 4d6 drop the lowest method.
That's fine.
So as a DM, I don't like to have players that are miserable. I said, here, hold on, and I fixed his statistics a little bit so he can play a gnome illusionist.
Okay, cool.
It's fine with that. So he picked Fog of War as his one spell for an illusionist. And he picked a missile weapon instead of having a staff or a dagger. So whatever, that's fine.
Okay.
So during the adventure, one of the newer players who's brand new to tabletop role-playing doesn't understand the character of an illusionist and starts saying, well, why don't you do something, dude? Stop hiding in the corner or running away. Why don't you use your spell or throw a rock or do something? You're pretty useless.
Wow.
So then the dude snaps at this new guy and says, oh, I have his Fog of War, my missile thing. I only have a 55% chance of hitting somebody, and then there's a 25%. He's quoting all these rules and everything. I'm like, dude, chill out.
Wow.
I'm like, I would have given you a better chance than that just so you can do something. All the rules said I can't do this or that. And I was like, all right. So then there was another point in the adventure where there was two characters and they were running through a darkness room, which they were kind of feeling around the room, trying to get around. This new guy writes me a note and he said, there'd be a cool idea to have one of the players in that room replaced by a doppelganger. Right?
Okay.
So I said, that's not a bad idea. So I do that. I pull one of the two characters that's feeling around in the room, the player, to the side and explain to him that he can get his character back. It'd just be a cool, fun thing. And he rolls with it. He understands what a doppelganger is.
Okay, cool.
He rolls with it. And then as soon as the party rests down for the night, he puts his plan as a doppelganger into action, trying to pull a party member away from the party to, pretty much subdue him and take over the party. As soon as this starts happening, the dude that suggested all this starts packing up and said, this type of game isn't for me. I don't like inter-party fighting and
what?
And players stealing things from another. I said, what? I'm like, dude, this was your idea.
Your idea.
And he also yelled at the party when the thief and one of the fighters went alone and found a hoard of treasure.
Yeah.
And instead of giving it entirely to the party, the thief, of course, started stuffing things in his pocket to hide it.
Okay.
It's like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to split it evenly with the party.
I would have said, not according to his alignment.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, no, he's a thief. That's his first instinct, is steal for himself.
Yeah, thief's got to do, okay, 1 for you, 1, 2, 3 for me. 1 for you, 1, 2, 3 for me.
Yeah, he didn't like the fact that the fighter was stuffing things in his backpack too. And then he was like, oh, we'll just give the rest to the party. We'll just pretend like we didn't see this part.
Well, was it? Now, my question would be, obviously the thief, I'm going to say it was within his alignment to do, though. I'm assuming it was also within the fighter's alignment to do that.
They were both chaotic good.
Okay, well, they're chaotic good. That doesn't mean they feel, that lawful good would probably not have done that. But
right.
I don't see any problem with chaotic good keeping something for themselves.
Sure.
They were like, their rationality was they risked their lives and traveled around alone to find this treasure, but they were nice enough to give the party some of what they found. That was their.
So this whole thing, this guy suggests the doppelganger thing. You're like, okay, cool, let's roll with it. You put the whole, thing into action, and then he doesn't like it.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. He packs up his stuff and said that, I don't like this type of stuff. This is not my type of role play.
Well-
Is he bipolar or something?
All right. And then he commented later on, he goes, I don't like groups that there's inter-party play and other players stealing from other players and trying to kill each other on unwarranted attacks. I'm like thinking to myself, dude, you wanted all this. You suggested the doppelganger.
Yeah, and that's what a doppelganger does. Tries to split the party in some way and take over people and all that jazz.
Yeah.
What did he expect? Just the doppelganger to come out and just start attacking without being, deceptive about it?
Yeah. As soon as the player who was the doppelganger's character started attacking one of the other players, and I rolled to see if the other characters would wake up. I even said, when the other players wake up, I said, you notice that it is no longer such and such character. He fades into this hideous, disformed character of himself, and you obviously recognize him to be a doppelganger at this point. So,
Wow.
still packed up and cried and walked down the stairs. I was just like, whatever, dude, it was your thing.
Wow. That just I have no words to. Well, I do have words that they're very disparaging, but wow.
Yeah,
wow.
that's interesting. Although it's neat that you brought up doppelgangers because I use them in my campaign, but I decided that in the campaign I'm running right now, there may be a doppelganger if my players are listening. But I look at it more as a creature of Fae, like the changeling, because that was a very big deal. Was that they used to kidnap people and replace them with themselves, but looking like that person.
Right. Yep, that's true. That's out of the old lore. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I am doing that if my guys are listening.
Just a possibility.
Just a possibility. Talk amongst yourselves. Let the paranoia begin.
Right.
Good game. Remember, the computer is always our friend.
Yes.
So that's that.
Yeah.
So there. I guess, Matt, do you have any gaming things you've been up to? Or-
No, other than just prepping for Gen Con.
Yeah.
Figuring out what I'll be
Yeah,
doing.
Gen Con's coming up.
Yeah, just a few short days away.
Matt, did you get the games the events that you wanted to get into?
Actually, I don't play in the whole let's rush for an events game. I just kind of go there and wander and see what I get into. So I don't go in like, oh, I want this. It's more of figuring out, okay, what's going on that I would be kind of interested in, and if I'm not doing anything else more productive at the time, I'll go check that out. Far more.
Sure.
I take a far more laid back Gen Con.
Yeah.
This will be my 11th, I think.
Whoa.
Wow.
So
I've only been to 4, I think.
I've been every year since it's moved to Indianapolis. So at this point, I've seen a lot, did a lot. It's almost more of a social gathering of seeing like my old Gen Con friends I only get to see once a year. So it's more about making
that's
the
kind of
rounds.
how I look at GaryCon. I like to go to GaryCon because I see certain friends I only see when I go there. Yeah. Although now I see them when I go to Nexus and Gamehole too, but that's all right.
Right.
Woo. Let's move Gen Con to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is North Texas game convention? Well, what is it called again? It's North Texas Game Convention.
RPG Con, yeah.
Yeah, they're already, looks like, didn't they just have it and they're already getting it geared up for next year?
Yeah, as soon as as soon as the one ends, like a week later, they open up pre-registration.
Wow.
You get like 50% off almost on the ticket prices for joining.
Cool.
Oh, a lot of people do it as soon as it comes up so they can pay only like half the price of the ticket fees. It's worth it.
That's really one I want to try out.
I agree. You should.
You never know. You never know. I might try to make it there next year. It's always fun trying to figure out what I can get time off to do.
Then I could do an actual RFI podcast with somebody there.
Hey.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll get you in. We'll get you in on a press pass, Chad.
Hey, that'd be nice.
And you can put on your press hat with a little thing on the side that says press.
Yeah, I could wear like a trench coat with my fedora with my little ticket in the side.
Yeah, there you go.
I could talk like a 1920s journalist too. Hey, what's up, boys? Got any good stories?
Yes. We'll have you type up all your reports on one of the old typewriters.
Ding! Because you wanted to know.
Yeah. We got this via telegram.
Stop. Please come to
This
the
is Chesterton reporting direct from North Texas. Because you wanted to know.
You have to do the whole, and he's reporting there live, and
Yeah.
I'm here looking down on.
Nick gaming.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
I got nothing. Oh no, I'm I actually spoke with the group and we're going to get together. I think we're going to try for 2 games in August. So, and we're going to do the Castle Greyhawk campaign. So
This is August. Yes. Okay.
yes, so couple weekends coming up here.
Dun,
So-
dun, dun.
But other than that, nothing really. Just reading through some material.
Cool. All right. Sage advice. Let's jump into it.
Sage advice.
Sage advice. This week we have a couple emails. You can write us in rfistaff@gmail.com. Go to our website, type in your information, hit submit. That sends us an email. Hit us up on Facebook or G+, or you can call us at 570-865-4210 or voicemail hotline.
Yes.
First
Fire
email.
giants are standing by.
Hey, they'd burn the phone.
Well, no, we have asbestos phones.
The phones are burning up.
They're burning out the phone lines right now.
Apparently, Chad is stuck in 1920s pressman.
Yeah, see? Why I oughta smack you.
Uh-oh. He's stuck in a Call of Cthulhu character now.
Great.
Why you? All right, I'm pulling out.
That's it.
That's what you.
No.
No,
we're not-
no.
Not going there.
PG.
Okay, so the first email comes from Steven, aka Dad's Angry from the forums of osrgaming.org. With the passing of Dave A. Trampier this year, I was wondering what happened to the original artwork for the front cover of the player's handbook. That art is what first attracted me to D&D. Someday when I win the Mega Million lottery, I would love to have it hanging in my gaming room. Does it still exist, and if so, who has it? I don't know who. I guess the family would probably have it.
I don't know. Would that be something that TSR kept?
Who knows?
That's a good question. They may own the rights
Possibly.
to it. I don't know.
Yeah, because I just know with Mad Magazine, before Time Warner bought them, there was a bunch of, like, when you were in their offices, had big giant, like, posters of, like, the various covers of Mad Magazine. Those are actually the original artwork, just hanging up in their office walls.
Oh, okay.
And once Time Warner found it, they're like, oh, we can sell these and make some money. And they went and auctioned a lot of them off.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it would depend on what sort of agreement they had with the artist. I mean, I don't know, to be honest, who would have the original artwork of any of his stuff.
I tried to do some Googling about it. I couldn't find anything about it, so.
Yeah.
The only person I would think that might know would be, I think, Tom Wham, because they're related
Well, also remember
through marriage.
Jeff D had to do that Kickstarter to reproduce his art because all his was destroyed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would think any of the artists would know because they probably would have a good idea of how the deals, how that was set up.
yeah, from Jeff D's Kickstarter, he put this was his ongoing effort to recreate his old TSR Dungeons and Dragons artwork, which was destroyed by some thoughtlessness functionary to make room into TSR files.
There's a possibility that could have happened with Tramp's work, too. So, who knows? Well, like I said, Tom Wham, I believe they're related through, like, marriage, like Tom Wham's sister or somebody. But anyway, Tom Wham was one of the original TSR crew. had some. He might know because he did some of the artwork back then too. And so, I mean, I know we can contact him or.
Oh, you have a line to him?
No.
You
But
could probably
he
catch
through
him. Though,
forums.
yeah, or if you go to any of the conventions,
He
like,
goes to,
Game Hole or
Gary
GaryCon.
Con.
Yeah,
He goes
he's
to
always at
Gary
GaryCon.
Con.
And I
don't
believe he
know
goes
if-
to Game Hole.
I don't
and-
know if Larry Elmore would, because he started getting into TSR in the early 80s, and I think when Tramp was just doing the Wormy comic by then. I don't know if he had any interaction with Tramp at that time, but I mean, wouldn't hurt to ask, I guess.
Yeah. I would say the easiest way to ask would probably be just to log on to Dragon's Foot and ask, because they have the dedicated threads to all the old guard out there, and I'm pretty sure they could probably get a good answer from that direction.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I know,
but we've
does
had
one.
but we've had Larry and some of the other folks on the show before. I'm sure we could talk to them directly.
Yeah, if he wants to wait till we get that guest. But in the meantime, I would, that would be probably the
shoot him an
fastest.
email.
We could, yeah. I don't see why not.
But as far as it sounds like, at least from us, I don't know.
What maybe if TSR owned it, maybe Wizards of the Coast still has it, because I remember they said they had that whole giant attic full of things that were TSR leftovers.
Yeah,
that's entirely
that's right.
possible.
Didn't they find
too.
like an old storage unit?
Yeah. They were giving away stuff at one point because they found old like boxes of this and that, and they were selling other things that they found.
Yeah. They might. Wizards of the Coast still might have some of that stuff because, as far as I know, Trent doesn't have any other living relatives.
No? Oh, okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well,
I
good
don't-
luck getting it if Wizards of the Coast has it. It's
Yeah.
probably in a vault that shall never be opened.
Yeah. Let's use this for 6th edition artwork. No, no.
God.
Either that, or they'll be like, "Hey, let's just sell all of this stuff," or like, "Here's party favors for the people we're laying off."
Wow. Cool. There's your answer. There's, somewhat of an answer. Sorry, we don't have any better one for you.
Answer is we don't know.
The answer is bad sound effect. Okay. Next email comes from Nick. Nick, hey.
Hey, no problem. I thought I'd surprise you guys.
No, it's Nick in actually it's Nick in Texas. So
Oh, okay.
Nick in Texas, if you're in North Texas, you can always come join our games up here in North Texas. Shoot me an email if you are. I just listened to the hot off the press. See, even he's stuck in 1920 mode.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press issue number 150. You made reference to having available for download the additional G modules that were available through one of our old school friends. Was looking around on the website, did not see a link for the download. Can you direct me to it? I'd love to pick up these additional modules for my collection. You will have them available for you as soon as we review them and do a podcast on them with Mr. Thork in the back.
Yay!
So when we do it, we'll release them, and Matt will, I guess you could put them up on a share drive, Matt, or
Yeah,
something.
I'll figure something out so that way the link will just be in the show notes.
So we'll do G4 an episode.
So after each episode,
Yep. Each episode will release one for free, courtesy of Mr. Thorkhammer. He'll be
because
our,
he's a swell guy.
yeah, he is a small guy.
Yes.
Next issue, sorry. Next email comes from Patrick. That's a little bit of a long email. Hey, RFIers. Greetings from the crossroads of America, St. Louis.
Hey, I lived there for a long time. I'm from Missouri.
Are you?
Just thought I'd drop that fact.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Chad fact number 1. He says, I had an idea for a show. I think it would be interesting to have Frank Menser on to talk about the Temple of Elemental Evil. I've always been curious about the module, and I'm sure Frank would have good material for the show. I think you guys may have covered the module itself, but a discussion on the reasoning behind it would be fun. There's more to the email, but I'm just pausing in case anybody has any comments.
I know we've had Frank on in the past.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, but I don't think. Yeah, we talked about some other stuff. We talked about I don't think we specifically talked about the Temple of Elemental Evil, did we?
No, I don't think
I
we
don't-
have.
I don't think we did.
Yeah,
No.
I actually sat in on one of those interviews.
Yeah, I think we talked about some other products that he did for TSR.
Yeah, we focused a lot on Immortal box set and things like that.
Yeah, we talked about some of that. I don't, but I'd have to revisit that show because I think a show on Temple of Elemental Evil, it'd be a whole show in itself. There's a there's a lot of lore and stuff built up just around that.
No, Village of Hamlet just by itself could be a show. Yeah, you
Sure,
could do
yeah.
several on that. That's an entire campaign.
Oh yeah. So
Okay,
we can
cool.
look into it. Sure, Frank's up to it.
He continues. I also want to say I think it's ironic you guys named your show after one of the more controversial rules in old school Dungeons and Dragons. I'm pretty sure that every host on all the WGPN podcasts use a different method for rolling initiative. Yeah, we pretty much all do.
Pretty much.
Have our little tweaks to it. Now he goes on to say, I have a couple questions for some hosts. The first one is for DM Matt and DM Vince. Whatever happened to that wrestling announcer who you have introducing your show? Feel free to go off on as long as a wrestling tangent as you like. I get a kick out of how it annoys people.
Oh, he's referring to Michael Buffer? He's actually a boxing announcer outside of the fact he did do a few Monday Nitros. He would only do the main event and got paid 10 grand to announce one match. Ridiculous.
He did the NWO pay-per-views too. I remember that.
Yeah, he did that and was getting paid ludicrous amounts of money. And his brother is actually I think half brother is Bruce Buffer, the announcer for the UFC. And they actually didn't even know each other existed until Bruce happened to be watching like a boxing match and saw, that guy looks a lot like me. And then asked his dad, am I related to him? And the next thing you know, they ended up connecting like much later in life.
Oh, that's
Because they didn't even grow up together. So anyway, that's your Buffer family of announcers fun facts for the day.
So should we go off on a wrestling tangent, Matt?
Sure.
Oh, God.
Hey, I did just get done watching an entire that special, the WWE special on the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh.
Oh, how was that? I didn't watch it all yet.
All right, just
They're
poke
pretty
me when
good.
you're done. Poke me when you're done. I'm gonna
Good.
take a nap
I-
over here.
Well, I forgot just how strange the character Ultimate Warrior was.
Oh yeah, nutball.
Yeah, he was kind of crazy. A friend of mine refereed in the WWF back in the 80s during his like world title run and whatnot. And yeah, he was probably he said he was like the most hated guy in the locker room that he was ever around. No one liked him.
Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, I just got from him that he never really jobbed, did he? He never really made somebody else look good by taking serious hits.
I mean, from in the ring standpoint, he wasn't very good, and he hit really hard.
Yeah.
And then plus he had a huge ego about him.
Mm-hmm.
There was the SummerSlam where it was Hogan and Warrior versus Slaughter and Non and the Iron Sheik. About a month or so beforehand, Warrior threatened to walk out of the WWF as part of contract negotiations if he didn't get like $250,000 in like 1991 money.
Yep.
So yeah, and so Vince paid that, and then Warrior went out and did the match, and then was proceeded to
Fired.
be let go. Yeah.
I always liked it when Goldberg took him down a peg.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he loved that one in real life.
Oh yeah, yes. Especially when you think about it, Goldberg and Warrior have quite a bit in common.
Yep.
Really?
Except Goldberg was actually liked and nice until people started getting into his ear, and then he just became a pain to work with. Because WCW was a cancer, this locker room, and yeah, pretty much you had certain people in there that made sure everyone else was infighting, so they kept their own they kept their power and spots.
I met him one time when I was working at the casino up in Stamford,
Yeah.
Connecticut. He was actually trying to get into the casino. They had a WCW event there that night, and security stopped him at the door, and they wouldn't let him through. So they called down surveillance and supervision. So I came out of surveillance room, and I'm like, dude, why aren't you letting Goldberg through the door? They're like, who? I'm like, Goldberg. And I'm like, well, he has a bag you won't let us look at. And I'm like, it's probably the WCW Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
And then Goldberg's like, yeah, it is. And he opened up the bag and he showed everybody the belt. And they're like, ooh.
Yep.
And then one guy's like, I don't know who he is. I don't care who he is. He has a bag and he wouldn't let me check it. I'm like, dude, come on.
Yes. A friend of mine is currently one of the New Japan IWGP Tag Team Champions. So he gets the privilege of carrying around a giant freaking belt in his gear bag from when he's on airplanes. Not fun. Over in Japan, it's not much of an issue because they kind of just leave you alone. But when in the U.S. they find it, everyone wants to take the belt out and look at it and make a big old scene out of it. When all you want to do is get on your plane because your bag weighs an extra 15 pounds because you're carrying this giant metal belt.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I don't blame him for not wanting to take the belt out.
The only other person I've seen with a belt blatantly out would be Chris Jericho with the Intercontinental belt walking through the Mohegan Sun Casino after Monday Night Raw with a big grin on his face.
Yeah.
Like, you idiot.
Probably, no, the best is former UFC heavyweight champion Tim Sylvia. He would just go to, like, the local mall on a Saturday when he'd need to do his shopping and wear his belt.
What? Okay.
Maybe his pants were falling down.
No, he was just one of those horribly insecure people and didn't understand why no one liked him. Then he did stuff like that. He's like, but if I'm the champ, people will like me. No, because the fact that you want them to like you because you're the champ means that they won't like you. So.
All right. Someone want to poke Nick?
What, huh?
I see our sleep spell wore off Nick.
Yeah.
Continuing with the email.
Fire Giants, what?
He also wants to know, have you read Gaming at the World? I know you read that, Nick, right?
Yes, I have a copy of it.
If so, what did you think? And if you've already covered this, can you please direct me to the episode?
We didn't cover it, but it's a fantastic read. I highly recommend it.
If you want to know more about the book and an in-depth talk about it, listen to Save or Die. They had him on the show and they interviewed him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's actually been on the show a couple times since that initial interview, too. So.
They had about 5 episodes with him.
Right. He's
a great guy and wonderful book. And it goes to back. I mean, it's not just the history of the D&D, but it goes the history of wargaming in general. And it's like a scholarly take on wargaming and its history. It's really a history book with all the footnotes and all that.
Be good for a class.
Yeah, it's a textbook.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like the textbook on wargaming and how it evolved into D&D.
That's why Nick loved it, because he's one of those nerdy book history.
I have a degree in history. What do you want from me? I'm like, come on.
Hey, now, I spend my nights reading history of the Cold War. There's nothing nerdy about that.
No, not at all. But to kind of add on to that, there is...
It's only to make your top secret games seem more interesting. That's why.
That's right.
Dang straight.
But along with that book, Gaming at the World, I think kind of related to it, there is, I know, a documentary they're struggling to get out right now called The Great Kingdom.
Oh. Okay.
And there was basically a documentary on the early years of TSR up until I think like 85. And it's basically like that 10-year span from 75 to 85. And there was a Kickstarter for it. And I think it just stopped not too long ago. But the people who made this movie has been struggling very hard to get it out. And I've seen previews of it, little snippets of it, and it looks fantastic. Hopefully it'll be out very soon. This looks like an actual really good documentary on D&D and TSR in general. So
cool. Yeah, documentary. Cool. So finally, he follows up with, can you guys talk about your process for adventure design and what you believe are the core elements of a good RPG adventure? Also, would you have any tips for people who are planning to write adventures for self-publication? Maybe you can have someone like Thor Camera come on and discuss his or her process. Thor Camera will be with us next show, so
yeah,
he could talk about. We'll ask him questions how he went about playing this out and everything. So we'll hold all those questions off till the Thor Camera show.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for all your hard work. You guys put in a great show. Patrick.
Now, as far as the one question about like what was like a good campaign design or good adventure design?
What do you believe are the core of the? What do you believe are the core elements of a good RPG adventure?
Oh gosh. Like if I was making one, or if I was gonna buy one.
He says adventure design right before that, so I would assume designing one.
Gosh, I don't know. This is really all opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's a subjective question.
yeah.
It is very much so. I don't know. You could. You're gonna
You
have.
really have to look at who your audience is. You know, who are your players?
Mhm.
Because I've ran games at conventions where the players wanted constant action, and I've had other adventures I've run for the same game where they wanted more story. I would say the best way to put together a adventure that would please everybody would just try to find, try to hit that sweet spot between story and action, because they're two different sides of the coin. If you're doing action all the time, there's probably not a lot of time for story, and if there's story all the time, then you get bogged down in the story and there's not as much action.
Right.
Right. And I once heard an interview with Sid Meier, the guy who made like the Civilization series. And he talked about with game design, his concept of game design was always give the players interesting decisions to make. So always have something for them to decide. How do we, like, say there's a room full of monsters. Okay, they got a decision to make. Do we try to sneak around this? Do we try to fight them? How do we fight them? Always give them something interesting to be doing. It doesn't always have to be combat, but give them a series of interesting decisions to make.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's especially, and I ran across this myself when I first started writing adventures, was that it becomes very easy to write an adventure and get really into it, love your idea, and you're not leaving any decision making to the players. You're having one scenario that automatically leads into the next really cool idea scenario that you had. And pretty soon you're just narrating to the adventurers, the players. You really have to remember that whenever you put something into the game, if it doesn't matter, as in writing, they have a phrase they call "kill your darlings," which means it doesn't matter how cool you think that particular phrase or idea is, you have to be willing to kill it, because you have to be willing. You don't want to railroad your players.
Right.
You can put a cool scenario in, but make sure it's set up so that the players will decide where it leads.
Right. You could have the greatest encounter ever designed, but it could not fit in your story, so your adventure so bad it ruins the entire adventure if it's there. Even though it's the greatest encounter standalone in the history of existence, it may not fit your story. It may not fit your adventure, so you have to be willing to pull it out, no matter how novel the idea is.
Yeah. So there. And that wraps up all the emails we have for this week, and we'll head into our first segment of the night. Table Manners.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I'd like to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
Okay, folks. Here we are in Table Manners, and we're going to cover, well, I guess would be the last of the original G series of modules, Module G3, Hall of the Fire Giant King.
Which, incidentally, was first played at Origins in '78.
Yes, that's right. It was an Origin 78 tournament module. So, turn back the Wayback Machine to 1978. Put on your bell bottoms.
Yep. And then there's actually
Crank up the sticks.
Yep. There's
That's
even
right.
a write-up of the tournament for this in Dragon Magazine 19 on page 6.
Dragon Magazine number 19.
Yes.
Wow.
How many ettins is a fire giant worth? And it talks about some of the scoring system they used for it and some of the problems they had with it. Like, in this module, G3, no one actually made it all the way through.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
They made.
believe it.
I think the champions made it through like 60 rooms.
That's not bad.
Yeah. It's also funny. They also talk about the D modules, and everyone died in one of the modules to a demon except one group, so they won by default.
You die, he dies, we all die.
But anyways, yes, G3 vicious monster. It's everywhere, and they will kill you.
Yeah, of course
There's
they will.
lots of spots in this module where it's insta death.
It can be, yeah. And again, just like the G2 series, the environment in itself can be quite dangerous. Just at the start, where they talk about when you're climbing up that slag heap, and where like gouts of flame could be coming out of certain areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50% chance that you could, if you don't stick your head into any natural vents, 50% chance flaming gas is going to come out.
Yeah, 2d6 damage just from that.
Did you notice that when with that damage it says 2 hit dice and then it says 2d6?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it word it like that? When you think
I
hit
don't
dice,
know.
you think hit dice of monster automatically.
Yeah, like 2d8, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it. I'm like 2 hit dice. I'm like, oh, so it's 2d8, and then at the end it's just 2d6. I'm like, wait a minute, he said hit dice.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if that was a mistake or not, or maybe they were thinking something else?
We should ask Mr. Owl. Let's see.
No.
A 1.
A 2. A 3.
You're
and
dead.
2. Yeah, and you're dead.
Matt,
Now,
this Chad, please.
Now, like Chad, where we're kind of discussing it, and before we were getting into the show, is
Oh yes, the great debate.
the debate, like how you could interpret the area where the fire giants are, because you're either teleported there, or because it sounds like most of the time you're going to be teleported there from the Frost Giant Jarl area, where you pull down that lever at the very end, and each person's teleported not too far from the lair of the Hall of the Fire Giant King. So it could be interpreted as you were teleported to what would be Muspelheim, which is the land of the fire giants in Norse mythology, which is kind of connected with Asgard and all that jazz. Or you're teleported to an area which is like Muspelheim, which I kind of take the thing on, because there is a hex coordinate given in the 83 box set of where the Hall of the Fire Giant King is, if you're using World of Greyhawk.
Where is that?
Let me get
Because
that.
they describe it as literally like a hell on earth.
Well, yeah, because it's in the Hell Furnaces, which is an area of the World of Greyhawk that is a mountain range towards the southeast in the World of Greyhawk. And the Hall of the Fire Giant King is in hex M5-138.
Again, as the DM, it's your prerogative on how
You're
you
right.
do it.
Absolutely.
I'd probably like to do it. I'd like to do it just because it's fun to get out the old manual of the planes and have a use for it. But also, I think it adds to a nice, incremental buildup of the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, you could do it that way. Absolutely. I mean, it's
with having, though, a spoiler alert, the Drow involved. How are they manipulating people on a different plane?
Well, the Drow, I don't think would have a big problem with that. The Drow, first of all, they're emissaries. They're not even from this area, whether it's on the Prime or not. They're powerful magic users. I think that it's very possible. We know that Muspelheim is an important place for the fire giants, and we know that the fire giants are, in effect, calling the shots, at least openly, to the other types of giants, which you, as a player, have already gone against in the earlier modules. I think that Muspelheim would actually be quite a good place for them to do so. But that's just me. That would be in the game that I would run.
and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Continue.
Yes, but yeah, moving along, however you interpreting that. Again, you got the chart of the Giants bag contents table. I love that table.
Yeah, we see that again. We see that in the other ones also.
Yes, so
what's in a
that's-
Giants bag?
Yeah, what's in the Giants bag? But I
Trouble.
think what was more important in the area for the notes for the Dungeon Master, how Gary outlined to the DM that he really says in a roundabout way. And I think we were kind of getting to this even before we started the show, and our little warm up is by this time, if there are survivors from the other two giant enclaves or some other giants that might be involved, the fire giants are going to be prepared. They're going to be ready and waiting for an attack.
Definitely, especially considering if you killed their emissaries in the other two adventures, because they have emissaries at the Jarl's setting, they have emissary. I mean, at the Chieftain's setting, they have emissaries at the Jarl's.
Yes,
Rift.
and I was made
If
well
you've
aware.
been killing them
not
off.
Steading. Yeah, not steading.
Yeah, it's steading.
It's steading. Sorry.
That's okay because I think Colin in one of the Dead Game Society podcasts called it a steeding also.
Yeah, well, steading tomato.
like a homestead, essentially.
Yeah, that's how I was looking at it.
But
And
definitely, what you have been doing in the prior modules is probably, I mean, I can't see how it is going unnoticed by this point in the
Right.
third module.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe you snuck into the Rift without them hearing about what happened at the steading, but
Yeah, that could happen. But I would say by module G2, they know somebody's coming for them, someone's gunning for them, and that information's gonna trickle down to Klavdra and the rest of her clan, if you will. So, and further beyond that, to who Iklavla answers to.
all right.
And I'll
Now,
get to that.
when I played this adventure, the way our DM did it was we didn't kill the Jarl.
Yeah.
He actually got away, and we followed him. That's why we knew to grab that iron bar, because we watched him do it.
Sure.
So the first thing he does when he goes to the Hall of the Fire Giant King is he lets them know why he's there.
Dude, we got our butts kicked.
He's more or less like, we need to get ready because they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming. And I would be pretty convinced. I don't want to say pretty convinced, but I would say through the first two, there's always going to be some survivor. Someone's going to run away. Someone's going to turn and try to and go to the next level, if you will. Because it just, the chaos of combat, when you get into combat with all these different giants and whatever else is there, somebody's going to try to warn others, I would think. And
Yeah,
it's
I
just going to
definitely
trickle.
think so.
I just think somehow information is going to trickle down to Iklavra and her boss, if you get my drift. And so, yeah, they're going to be prepared. And you should, and as a DM, you should, take those things into account, and which will make a much more intense situation. Which why, when you get into the first level here, one of the things that kind of irks me is Area 3, the Throne Room and Audience Chamber. I mean, it's the third area you get into the module, and there's the Fire Giant King sitting on his throne with his pet hellhounds and just a few guys around him. He's just sitting there. I mean, come on. He's going to have a lot more people around. I think it's going to be a little more built up.
When I did the series, that final fight was against the king, and we didn't hit that room until the very end. And when we did, we didn't just have to fight the Fire Giant King. We also had to fight the Frost Giant Jarl. He was there. And basically, the Fire Giant King had taken all the big bad guys that we hadn't fought yet, and they were all there.
That's how I did it too when I did the Hackmaster version. Pretty much the same thing might happen to you. Now the Jarl didn't survive, but there were other survivors that made it here. They alerted the Fire Giant King, and there were more Ettins around. There were more Fire Giants around for sure There were definitely some hill giants, and I think there were a couple of frost giants around too. I beefed it up. It just made sense. Like, you know what? There were survivors. They made back. They warned the Fire Giant King, and they built up their defenses. So it's just
and
one of
don't
those
forget,
things that, yeah.
The Steading has that cloud giant. Cloud giants are fairly intelligent as giants go. Now, he may not have gone. He probably, if he saw the tide of battle turning back in G1, he may have skipped G2 altogether. He may have made his way straight to the Fire Giant King to let him know what was going on. He probably didn't stick around to fight to the death. So he might be there too. Now you got a cloud giant you got to fight.
Yeah, and I believe in this module there is some allowance for that. I forget which room it is, but it's if the hill giant chief survived, he's here with a few other people. So
yeah, I could totally see that.
That could conceivably happen. Absolutely. So that hall area 2 and 3, I would think by that time it's the defenses are going to be beefed up. He's going to have all of his hellhounds there. He's going to have maybe even the Queen Fruipy there. I love that name, Fruipy. She might be there as well. And
Fruipy.
Yeah, Fruipy. And a few others. I mean, it's going to be a huge, ugly fight right from the get-go.
Right. From a DM standpoint, I would say before you run this adventure, really take some time and put together a strategy. Well, first of all, figure out, do they know the party's coming? If you decide they know, then you really need to take some time and figure out, put together a plan of battle for them, because they're not just going to be treating life as usual, hanging out in their assigned rooms.
They're going to be on alert. Guards are going to be doubled. They're going to set up I think I set up some more ballista traps here and there. I didn't have the drow show up yet, but I had the Fire Giant King take the defenses up front as his area responsibility. Maybe that's what Clavra told him what to do. But because I didn't want to do the big reveal until later on, if you get my drift.
Right. Well, you bring up a good point too, Nick, because you bring up the fact that in this adventure, now you were saying you didn't so much have the drow in it when you ran it, but if you're running it kind of more or less by the book, they were in it when I played it.
Oh, they were in mine too.
Oh, okay. But
they just weren't part of the initial front defense that the
I don't think they would be the front defense. But an important thing to remember, they're very crafty and very intelligent, and they're the advisors to the Fire Giant King. So when you're coming up, they're telling him more or less how to defend his place.
Yeah, maybe craft some traps, maybe things of that nature. So some pretty nasty traps. I would even I would even maybe throw in that 10-headed pyrohydra that's in Area 8 in the cave, if you really want to be a sadistic DM.
I forgot to mention the Queen's room was the first place you see the insta death for if you roll natural 20.
Yeah, that's true. And if she's not with the king, that's actually a good point. That the first insta death area with Queen Frumpy or Fruipy, where the heck her name is, because she's sitting on a raised area, and anybody who sees her Fire Giant must kneel in her august presence and state their business, so she may fairly dispose of their humble requests. Any so foolish to do so will be sorry. Because she will either kill him or her giant weasel pets will come and get him. Because don't forget, giant weasels, they drain blood, which drain hit points.
Yep.
And that's where she's got
her advantage.
And she's got the advantage where she is. I'm not sure what she's armed with. Is it with a longsword? I forget what she's armed with, but if she scores a natural 20 from where she's at, she has decapitated the victim of her attack.
A natural 20. No save, no nothing, no.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter
Nat
the-
20, you're decapitated. You're dead.
Yeah, she has an iron scepter.
Iron Scepter. Okay. Yeah, which does 17 to 42 hit points of damage. Even
Oh
if she
yeah,
doesn't
well,
roll
what
it.
is a scepter for a fire giant? I mean, that's
Right,
that's
right. That's like a
light
telephone
post.
pole. Yeah. You know, she hit you with a telephone pole.
Exactly. You know,
Take
and
5 to
here's
30
something
plus 4 damage.
I would also
Plus eight.
suggest that one thing the guy that I used to have as my DM enjoyed doing was he'd give us an enemy like that would recur, right? The recurring enemy. You could do that all the way back in the Hill Giants, or you could do that with the Frost Giants. But it's fun to have a recurring enemy that does escape the carnage and is there to meet you on the next one. So, maybe it was the Hill Giant Chieftain. He's kind of a craven. The other giant rulers see him as more or less as a dwarf. He acts kind of craven and cowardly, and that's why he goes straight to the Fire Giant. Maybe he doesn't even get killed in this adventure, or whoever you choose or create, but they then move on down the D series. That's something interesting to do too.
Sure. Yeah, that can definitely happen. Now, inside her chamber, there is a casket. Casket number 2. I love this because this is just how this, I think, as a DM showed even at this time in 1978 how crafty players are and how tough Gary Gygax had to make it on the players to find certain things. Because if you read the description on casket number 2, it holds 4,000 copper pieces like number 1, but it has like number of platinum pieces covered by a spell so that they will appear as coppers until they are taken out of the chamber. Okay? Love that. And the iron chest has a trick opening to the side, which allows the person to get its contents. It's a jade box with a hidden compartment, which can only be detected by means of X-ray vision or true seeing / sight spell. I mean,
like a gem of seeing.
Yeah. So he's making all of these secret compartment stuff like they can only be seen by this and this and this, which means even back then in the mid to late 70s, players were very, very smart, and the game wasn't even that old. They were already starting to figure out things.
Yeah, it's another good example. Also, I could see a player going, "Well, I'm an elf, and I get my 1 in 6 chance or 2 in 6 chance." And
Right.
the DM, this was Gary saying, "I don't care. You don't.
Because I'm designing it this way."
Doesn't matter what the rule book says. This is how it works."
There's also one of the coffers in her area. There's a jeweled pendant with a stone that has flashes of color appearing from its inky depths. And in parentheses says it's a wizard eye device fashioned by the drow and allows them to see through it. So you might find
That's
that little
nice.
might find that little item. Not knowing what it actually is, you just know it magical.
Yeah, and good luck sneaking into the D series.
Right. If you had that around your neck and they can see through it like in
Not only that,
hidden
they
camera.
know you're not going to surprise them with your abilities either.
Mhm.
They'll know exactly if you get to where you're going into there. If you start taking out the Fire Giant King, by that point the ones that are watching, they know everything. They have that you can do. They're going to be their defenses are going to be specifically geared to your party.
Right. Exactly. They will be. They'll be ready. And the last item I thought was funny is the queen has a potion of fire giant control she uses from time to time on the king. So,
oh, homie.
Yeah. Honey, I would like to get this. Oh, sure. You know, these aren't the droids you're looking for.
Well, that also tells you how crafty she is. Maybe she's the brains behind the throne.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Who's the actual brains behind the whole fire giant area? It might be the queen, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe she was the one who helped forge the alliance with the Drow. Maybe she was the original go-between. Maybe she was the one they went to first.
It would explain why she has that pendant too.
Yeah, they might have given it to her.
And as a gift. Exactly. Little did she realize that the gift has a wizard eye on it.
Yeah.
So moving along, so there's some more guards, but you get the King Snuri's private quarters. And the thing about the quarters, and then you find the cave with the Pyrohydra we talked about, and then the treasure cave. So the Pyrohydra kind of acts like a guard dog, if you will, to the treasure cave, which is Area 9. There's a lot. This is like how would I describe this? This is like the big payoff number 1, you might want to call it, because there's a whole bunch of different trunks, chests, and coffers. And just a few I want to kind of highlight because there's so many is like trunk number 4 is there's a blade in the lid. It chops down like a fire giant, and it may destroy part of what's inside, which is 3 cubic feet of silk worth 3,000 gold pieces, and it'll ruin 2 cubic feet of it if it misses the players. So you might have some ruined items in there. Let's see. There was another one that I thought that was interesting. Chest number 1, or I'm sorry, trunk number 8. It holds 9 large asps of 6 hit point each with +2 poison. Invisibility hides all contents, including the asps. So you can open this thing up. Oh, nothing in there. And if you don't say that you're shutting the lid, these invisible asps are going to be, maybe getting out, biting the adventuring party, and possibly killing. Because remember, being first edition to AD&D, poisons, it's save or die. Unless you want to use the actual poison damage chart in the DMG. But normally it's save or die, right? Right. So there you go. Now, and there was the other, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, and don't forget, again, if the Fire Giant King is building up his final defense, or if he has put the place on red alert, it's very possible that a lot of the goodies that are in there are no longer in there, because if they have great weapons and items, why are they going to leave them there when they're under assault? Why would they
not use them? Exactly.
They're going to use them.
I think they would. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They may not use the Ring of Delusion that has the the killer poison on the side of it.
Why not use trunk number 8 as a trap? The adventuring party comes inside. Maybe they rig it up to where, as soon as they come in, they pull the chest open, and 9 invisible asps start writhing around and biting the adventuring party.
Or they leave the Ring of Delusion out to be seen. They may leave items out to be seen, but they may be items they don't want to use.
Yeah,
but could soften the party up.
Some of these chests and coffers and stuff that are trapped, why not use them as traps at the very beginning? I can't see why not. Well, another one was chest number 1 I was going to talk about was it contains weakness gas, which will form a 10-foot radius cloud. And the other than that, the chest is empty. I'm like, well, okay, weakness. So what does this do? Am I going to use like the stuff for a ring of weakness to stat this out how it works, or am I going to kind of use the reverse of a strength spell? That was kind of a question for me. I didn't know how that worked. I guess
that's a good question. I guess I'd probably use it like a temporary, like a ring of weakness, like one use.
Yeah, I think that's what was implied here. But I guess
area of effect, one use.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it could be like that, which could be kind of nasty if you look up the Ring of Weakness in the DMG, how it strength.
Then it would certainly fit in the module.
Absolutely. Or if you're not as sadistic as a DM, then you could say, okay, maybe it works like the reverse of a strength spell. I guess it depends on how, as a DM, you would want to work it, So that was one of those I kind of had a question about. So that one's definitely up for interpretation. Some of the other chests, I thought, well, there's the chest number 3, which squirts acid. The chest number 4 with spikes. The other one, okay, coffer number 1. And this is really the only other one I thought was kind of, or chest number 3, or 6. There's so many of those. I'm losing track. But chest number 6 has the lock and handles have contact poison +6 on them. And all those that touch and save them at -6. But inside, I think, is kind of the first glimpse of maybe what you might be dealing with, because there's a black cloak, a pair of black boots, and man-sized. Gives 75% chance to be invisible, move silently in dungeons. Kind of sounds like drow material, don't you think?
Oh yeah, from an out of character standpoint. Now remember, at this point, your characters should have no idea what drow.
Yeah, but maybe these are like the first inklings of what they might be dealing with here. So these might be a cloak and boots of drow workmanship. They have them. They might not know what they are, but they seem they're unusual. They've never been seen before.
Right. It's an alien fabric that they've never come across before.
As a DM, I would say we would play it up that way.
Now, if you're playing, your characters that are in this game should be very high level, at least on average 9th level. So you're probably talking 9+ level into the 10s. Now, if you have an elf, especially like a gray elf player member, that's one area I would probably make a roll on his wisdom check to see first, does he remember the drow? And then I might make an intelligence check as he checks the clothes to see if he detects that it's like spider silk. And if that's the case, then I might be more willing to pull the player aside and say, your guy is starting to get a nasty suspicion because deep in your memory, you haven't thought about him in a long time, but there was the enemy of the drow, and the craftsmanship is just like what they would do.
The horror from ages past has finally reared its ugly head, and you suspect
exactly
it's the drow.
Yeah, there's only one group that makes spider silk clothing and their character might know that. And that's how I would probably start cluing them in, but only if they first remembered it. That's why.
And those blast points, much too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, I would say an elven high-level character. He would be the only one who would really have an in-character reason.
And if I was the player, if the DM approached me like this along the side, I would play it up like my character is in sheer abject terror.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what's wrong?
They should definitely look troubled.
Not just troubled, but disturbed and downright scared. So I would play it up like that. I like the coffer with all the different rings in it. So
you know what? Okay. Yeah, I would say they might be troubled. They might even be angry because there's a they might be like, now we really have to take this plot out because we know who's behind it now.
Yeah.
So, well, they don't know though. I would stress
it'd be like a
player,
whole range of feelings. Yeah, it'd be like a whole range of feelings: anger, fear,
betrayal.
Revenge. Yeah,
I was hurt. I felt betrayed.
Yes. But and then they have the coffer with all those different rings in it. I like that one. And that one, hopefully, I'm sure by this time, most of any party has like a wand of magic detection. So you got some pretty cool rings in there. And another ring of 3 wishes. I think that's number 2 in the whole series right now. But in a way, you kind of need them.
I don't know. In my game, I would knock one of them out. I'd probably put the one in this adventure. It's not so much in the other one. Otherwise, their players are going to start yawning when they find rings of wishes.
And then there's coffer number 4, which has all those weird idols in them where you can get cursed. I thought that was pretty cool too. And one of those you can probably tie into what's going on later on in the module, maybe. You know, some weird unknown gods. But kind of moving along here in the first level is the other area I thought was very interesting, because looking up in Greyhawk lore is this dwarf who has been a advisor but / prisoner of King Snur, Obmi. It's a hard name. Obmi. Obmi. I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like Obmi.
Obmi. He's an interesting character. He's in the Area 12, the Advisor's Chamber. He's a dwarf, fighter thief, 9/11 level, respectively. But he's been an advisor for about 25 years to the king. But 5 years prior to that, he was a slave, but he earned the Fire Giant's king's, confidence and trust. And he acts as his number one advisor. He's an interesting guy because doing some research on Obmi, he is actually a reoccurring villain in the original Greyhawk campaign.
Oh, really?
Yes, let me elaborate.
Okay, please.
Yes. Obmi, in the original Castle Greyhawk campaign, is found on one of the levels. He's near the center of one of the levels, I believe, level 3. And he is surrounded by some gnolls, and he becomes this villain against the party. And he escaped the original forays of the characters when they first went into that level, and they attacked him. He escaped, and then eventually he got caught, I guess, by the Fire Giant King, and he is seen again. So he's become this sort of reoccurring villain in Greyhawk lore. Not too well known, but in that Mega Dungeon module we did a review on a while back.
Okay.
He is present on level 3, Obni. So if you want to do like a whole kind of arc with that villain, you could with Castle Greyhawk and kind of lead it into the Giant series if you wanted to.
Yeah, not only that, but I was thinking you could take him and he could act as a courier for Snur. He could actually be as early as G1. He might not be. What I would probably do with him is make him try to, if things are going bad and he gets discovered in G1, he tries to fool the players into thinking that he's another prisoner. Then he might betray them at some point, and then they see him again when they get into G3, or he may be with them all the way up into G3, waiting for the perfect opportunity to betray them all. And maybe he's a Duragar because they didn't have Monster Manual 2 in this game.
Well, they just wrote him up as either like a hill dwarf or a mountain dwarf, but he's definitely evil.
Right. And again, they didn't have Monster Manual 2 at that time.
Right. So I would say, he's definitely evil, whatever alignment beyond that, and maybe neutral evil, I would think. I would think he was like neutral evil, how he would act. But along with him, he has one of the little things that they didn't really elaborate on. He has +2 armor. They don't say what it is. I would guess plate mail.
Probably. Or chainmail.
Or chain. He's a fighter thief. It's probably chain. I don't know. And he has a shield. He's got some great magic items.
Yeah.
+3 hammer, gauntlets, ogre power, great stuff.
Yeah, can you imagine if he journeyed with you through the other 2 adventures and helped you out and was, like real grateful, and then at the very end he betrays the entire
"Quote
party.
unquote," helped you out, exactly, because he knows a little bit about the drow, as it says in here, because he will bargain that or anything else to save his life.
Which could, again, that could even be more reason why I'd probably interpret him as a Duragar, because they're Dark
You can
also.
do that.
Right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and
Sure.
but yeah, he might even show up again in the D series because this is I see him as an opportunist. He's not
Sure.
going to sit there at the final battle and stick it out with the other guys. He's going to save his own skin.
Yeah, that's why I kind of interpret him as kind of like neutral evil in alignment. I
Mhm.
mean, he's gonna be kind of selfish and do whatever he wants, but for evil means, no matter he'll go to whoever's the strongest.
Right, whoever can benefit him and protect him.
That could be King Snur, that could be a Klavdra, whoever it may be.
He
So-
might even be a spy for the Drow.
Could be. Who knows? That's another twist that you can add to the whole plot. So, moving along again in this level, there's a council room. That's Area 13. And one of the things I thought that was interesting in the area is like sub area B. There's an alcove where there's all these different pieces of paper, parchment, scrolls. But on the 68th scroll tube, it contains a set of instructions for the king, telling him to gather forces of hill, stone, frost, and fire giants, along with whatever strength he can raise, in ogres, ogre magi, cloud giants, or any other creatures for an all-out attack on the provinces to the east and northeast. And the scroll promises powerful help from quote-unquote drow, and is signed a Klavdra. Now, when I did this, I actually wrote out the note of what it says.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So, when they discover that, like that scroll, I actually wrote out the note in some really cool font that I found, and I actually rolled it up and kind of, and made it look kind of interesting. So when they find this is it's almost like the big reveal here of what's going
And
on.
prop pretty much for the party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
the info dump.
Yep, this is like the big info dump here. But so I think as a DM, if you like to use props, this is like one area you can really make a really cool prop of a simple, thing that you can print off a printer. Do some of those little weathering techniques that you can pick up on, whether those may be, and make a really cool prop to use for your players, and it'll be a very memorable moment. But Vince,
yeah, and don't
you want
forget-
to talk about an area too? Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say another thing too. They find this scroll, right? And it's got the real info. But if by chance you had heard our episode here and you were deciding to use Obni as a spy, what you could do is have Obni, he's spinning it. So, he's trying to color the way the players translate or perceive the information that they just found.
Yeah, he could even confuse the players even more. Like they find this note, he might say something in the contrary. Who knows? He could form a bit of confusion into the party as well.
Right. It's, like, oh, I wouldn't trust it. They're constantly trying. This is probably a false clue left behind, or something.
Right.
Because he probably wouldn't like the fact that they found.
Exactly. So, but you were saying, Vince, that
Let's mention, did we discuss level 11 because that area 11 because that's the other insta death area if you mess with that altar that you find in there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that. Yeah,
That's my favorite room in the entire place.
Yeah, level 2. Because there's really only one more area on level 1 that I thought it was interesting that kind of leads up to level 2 is the guest chamber with the Rakshasas in it. Now you go through this whole first level, and then all of a sudden, the party stumbles upon these 3 Rakshasas. Now, how would those fit into the whole thing? Well, doing a little research on the Rakshasa myth that came from Hindu mythology, they're kind of like demons in a way. They have magical powers. They They are keepers of knowledge, but they're also, through Hindu mythology, they're cannibals. They eat humans. They love the taste of human flesh. And like in Rakshasa mythology, which was translated into D&D, if you hit one of these with a crossbow bolt that was blessed by a cleric, they instantly die. How this ties into the module is I would kind of play up the Rakshasas of being worshippers of the elder elemental god. I think that would work perfectly.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. I see them more as a not yet fully swayed group that the Rakshasa are extremely smart, but they're also kind of playing their own game. And they're probably, at least in my game, they're there because they don't want to miss the boat if what happens works. You know, they know the Drow are smart. They know they could possibly pull this off. But they're waiting for they're basically sticking around to see how it's all going to turn out. If things look good, they're going to jump on the bandwagon. If not, they're going to go their own way. I like but we're going to get into the next place that gets fully into we need to cover that room with the Elder Elemental God. But you're right. I think they could you could use them in that direction, definitely.
Right. Maybe, if not necessarily, maybe they are priests of the elder elemental god. Maybe they have some sort of, I don't know, because they are like keepers of mystical knowledge. Maybe they're giving some insight into the worship of the elder elemental god. But they could also play it as, hey, maybe, you know, as a faction, they're kind of seeing how things play out, like you said, Chad. Depending as a DM how you would work that. So I thought that was an interesting area. Like, why are these Rakshasa here? You know, as a DM, how could you work that into the module to kind of give it some logic, internal logic, I suppose. So
definitely.
Yeah. So that's level 1. Some interesting areas, some things that you need to elaborate on, and some background on some things. So level 2. All right, now we're going to get into some real hardcore meat and potatoes of the whole module.
If you survive this long.
If you survive this long, absolutely.
And again, it would help you to survive this long if you're not trying to hit every single room one after.
Exactly. Just some interesting places of note is Area 4, I thought, the storage room. That might not sound interesting, but there's hill giants there, and that's one of the places illustrated in a module. If the hill giant leader of the hill giants survived, he's probably here with the rest of his clan, if you will. So he's probably hunkered down here. Then there's the smithy, where if you're careful, hopefully you get a hold of a really cool magic item that the blacksmith was working on. It's a magical mace, which is +4. And it's made of some black metal. And it does, I guess, 1 to 12, the small to medium creatures, and 1 to 8 versus man size, or 1 to 12 versus small. Or, let me get back on this. 1 to 12 versus man size, 1 to 8 versus larger opponents. And it's a +4 magic item. But there's a 2 in 6 chance he might kick it into the lava that he's working around in the smithy.
Wouldn't that ace be like giant size, to be honest?
I don't know. It doesn't say that.
But one would think it would be.
You could, I guess so. Then it would be completely useless to the party.
I don't know. But I would just. Why would he be working on a mace that's too small for giants to hold?
Yeah, unless he's forging it for the Drow.
That's the only thing I could think of. Maybe
unless it grows like a ring of protection fits the user.
No.
I don't know. I mean, it works on one metal.
I would think it would be a normal size mace because they do say if he is attacked, there's a 2 in 6 chance he'll throw it into the lava if the encounter is going against him. So I would think it could be something to be used by the adventuring party. So maybe it was an item that was requested to made for the Drow. I don't know. That's one of those weird things.
About.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of an enigma. It's like, why is this mace here, and would it be useful to the party? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where as a DM you can again decide: do you even want it, or do you could substitute it with something else?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it seems to me like, I'm a blacksmith. I'm working on giant size stuff. So let me just today decide to make a mold of something really small because, maybe someone will come kill me and take it.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess with the Drow.
Yeah, unless he's making it for the Drow, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. So I would think I guess one of the things they do, like you said, maybe he's making it for the Drow. So I don't know.
Maybe he's branching out to new territory.
Yeah, maybe. Then you have the torture chamber, Area 7, where it has a bunch of interesting characters. There's an elven female for sacrifice to the temple, which we'll talk about here shortly. And if she's rescued, she's going to reward you a lot of money, a lot of magic items, and you'll get it 1 to 2 months later. How? I don't know. Because if you're going to go further along in the series, you're never going to see this stuff.
Check in the mail.
Yeah. You could get some hirelings or henchmen out of this. There's some male elves you might rescue. A couple of centaurs. They might be able to help you. There's a really ticked off troll that they've been poking at. And then there's this human female that she's a thief. And they don't say, again, what alignment she is. But I'm kind of thinking she's neutral.
Well,
just on her description.
They say she's casing out the party too at one point in the description.
Right, but she'll help out the party, but at the same time, yeah, she's casing out to see how much stuff she can pilfer off of them.
But here's something else I like to do with that character. You don't necessarily have to make her betray the party. This is a perfect opportunity for when somebody does lose a character. Give them this character and let them play it. Because we used to do that all the time, especially in Call of Cthulhu, where you drop characters so fast. But she could become a replacement character, and then you don't have to work out. You can play again. Just create another character, and they'll pop into existence. Hey, we're attacking all the fire giants. Want to join us? Sure, why not?
Sure.
Other than that, I would throw if you do lose a character and they don't want to use her. This would be a perfect place to throw their character into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the ways I was thinking that you could use her as well. If someone has a character that dies, they can pick this up, use it as a new PC right there. Boom, you're done. Even some of these other prisoners, like the 8 male elves, you maybe could roll up some stats real quick, or if you really want to go out on a limb, maybe one of those centaurs if you want to get into having a centaur as a player character.
What about a Titan?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
Yeah, in Area 14C, which is like a sub-area of Area 7, the Titan. This is where the party is going to get their version of, the Hulk. But
if he chooses to help you.
I think he will. If the party is mostly good aligned, I think he will. And I looked up the stuff on the Titan. I'm like, oh my gosh, if this guy gets aligned with the party.
Oh, but remember, they're going to have to wait 20 hours.
Yeah. Well,
he's drugged.
What party doesn't have neutralized poison available somewhere?
I've seen parties that didn't take that.
Yeah, that's true. So they'll have this like drugged up Titan running around with them, which would be hilarious to say the least. So yeah, one of these Titans is one of the prisoners, and he was going to be. Now I don't believe it says it, but I get the impression that the Titan was going to be a big sacrifice to the elder elemental god.
It's the only rationalization
Really?
for being there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see that. I saw him as a spy that was captured.
No, I think he was. I think he might. Well, captured, sure, but
Yeah,
ultimately
I think
he's
he
going to
tried
be
to infiltrate.
He's going to be sacrificed to the elder elemental god, for sure.
Perhaps. I mean, remember, if the Drow are involved in this, the Drow ultimately worship Lolth, and this is where, as a DM,
Not
you could
these
even
Drow.
right, and
these.
that's where I'm going with this. This may be a different faction that are of Drow that are here. In my game, I like the Titan to represent a spy, simply because that also foreshadows that maybe the party has some allies they don't know
Well,
about.
yeah, but a spy for who?
That's what I'm getting at. Maybe they have allies they don't know about. Maybe there
Right.
are other interested parties that are interested in stopping this. And this is a point in the adventure where the characters should start thinking maybe they need to find out, maybe the Titan can fill them in on this other group. You know, this could, maybe the other group then encourages them to move on into the D series.
Sure.
But definitely he could be both. He could have been a spy captured, and now he's going to be sacrificed to the elder elemental god.
Yeah, that's how I would kind of play it up as. Absolutely.
If
Which, yeah.
I was gonna say, if he helps the party and then the party gets to like him and everything, and then he dies, do they have time to remember the Titan? Never mind.
Yeah, remember the Titan.
I couldn't resist. Come on.
Meanwhile, which leads us into really one of the culminating points, the culminating point of the series is areas 9, 10, and 11, the Temple of the Eye. This is where basically some secrets are revealed, but some secrets even go more deep. So I'm not going to read the whole descriptions and everything.
No.
9 through 11, it's kind of like a larger version. If you think back to module G1, that quote unquote abandoned temple,
Yeah.
it's got the same vibe, the same feeling of unease, insecurity, evil, chaos, death, destruction. Gygax uses a really he uses a description of strange swirling light, eddies of luminosity drift and swirl here and there, causing the whole scene to be strange and uncertain. So you have globs of mauve and violet seem to seep and slide around. So the colors are very important. Mauve, purple, whatever it may be. There's also the servants and thralls worship area, which even if you can get into, is kind of creepy because there's like these small pillars that separate it from the rest of the temple. And if you go in between them, you get this mild feeling of fear, but also passing between any two pillars, you get 2 to 8 hit points of electrical damage, double that if you're wearing metal armor. Yeah. And the wall to the east shows a scene of various creatures crawling, then creeping up to a huge, vaguely squid-like creature with 10 hairy tentacles.
Ew.
In the forefront of this mass self-sacrifice are elves and men, but there are also dwarves, gnolls, orcs, trolls, halflings, ogres, goblins, etc. amongst the crowd. Those near monsters are being torn apart and the bloody goblets eaten as dainty morsels. Yeah. And there are 3 of these ghastly things modeled various shades of tint of purple and violet. That is your Elder Elemental God, who goes by the name of, I'm going to see if I can pronounce this right, Vilp Akfikchu Rentok.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or Rentok for short. We'll just call him Rentok.
Yeah.
Now, this Elder Elemental God, Rentok, now I originally got kind of confused with Tharizdun, which I guess a lot of people, when you look into the back of the Greyhawk lore of the whole thing,
He's also called, the Elder Elemental God.
He's also one of the Elder Elemental Gods. Apparently, there's 3 of them. There's this Rentok fella. There's Tharizdun, and there's a third one. They form this unholy Elder Elemental God trinity, if you will. And the greater god, Rentok, the Elder Elemental God, came into Greyhawk. He's like the version of like Cthulhu or Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah, I'd call him Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah, he's like Yog-Sothoth. And he is worshipped on Greyhawk by various evil, degenerate creatures, because he came into Greyhawk, into the under earth, and when the god Pelor first shone and drove out Tharizdun, the Elder Elemental God skulked into the dark recesses where it slowly regained its powers. So it kind of took in where Tharizdun was at. And over time, the Elder Elemental God drew the attention of evil giants. Hence why some of the giants, they are worshiping the Elder Elemental God. And over time, I guess there was this big battle with the Elder Elemental God and Biori, which is a major god in Greyhawk. And what happened was, and I'm reading from this, she smote the evil god with her powerful staff, instantly changing the Elder Elemental God into a column of stone. She followed this with a second terrible blow and reduced the column to rubble. This is very important, because what happened was, because this is like a battle between 2 giant gods, almost like titans, whatever you want to think about. These shards were scattered throughout the underearth in subterranean caves, labyrinths, and rifts. Most are hidden between beneath mountain ranges, deep gorges, oceanic abysses. And in these places that the depraved worshippers of the Elder Elemental God may be found. These shards, I would say, are the altars that they use.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could totally see that. And this is a really probably my favorite room in the entire adventure, because this is where I think the players finally get that hard evidence that there is something bigger, really bigger, going on with all the giants. And I actually run the Drow as because I have to have my reasoning for how the Drow originally contacted the giants, and I like to think that they promised the giants that they could resurrect this they knew the secrets of bringing back the goodwill of Shintok, the Elder Elemental God. And in the course of doing that, they also started manipulating the giants, and this is your hook into the D series, at least for me. This is my favorite hook, at least, to get them into the D series, because now we're seeing direct interaction between the giants and the Drow, and we're seeing the cold manipulation really at work. Now, I like the room because when I came into this room, I was playing a lawful good paladin, and I actually spit on the altar, which, if you read the description, if anybody touches or attacks the altar, some bad things happen.
Yeah, potentially some bad things could happen. And
exactly. It actually brings the elemental god.
It seems like, right, because these are the shards of Rentak imprisoned. And what they're trying to do is try to find as many of these shards as these can, bring them together, and perform the ultimate sacrifice to bring the Elder Elemental God into the world of Greyhawk.
Right, and if you do, as the book says, summon Rentak or the elder elemental god, you're probably at this point getting a weaker avatar version of him because you don't have all the shards, and you don't always. Now the book says it gives listed what will happen, you know, or if you roll a dice, I think it's like a 1d10 or 1d6, and different things could happen. You could just get killed. A player could get sucked into it, pulled by the tentacles. In my case, it actually pulled my paladin in and then did an alignment change on him, and he became
nice.
evil. It became an anti-paladin, but he had to hide that from the rest of the party. But he became the cleric. He had a big book he carried around ever after that called the Big Old Book of the Elder Elemental God. And tried to get people to read it because it'd drive you insane. Because in many ways, thank Lovecraft when you're dealing with this particular god.
Exactly.
And I like the idea of the shards trying to come together. And you can totally try to figure out how you can rationalize that into this whole thing, too. But I like to say that the Drow made their initial contact with the fire giants, and then it led to the hill, to the Frost in the Hill. But they did so probably by promising them that they had one of these shards, which they probably did in the Underdark. That's what I would say on that one, is that as a DM, have a lot of fun with that particular room, because even, you don't just have to rely on the pillars that cause fear. The minute they go into this room, the players should be getting the hairs on the back of their neck should be standing up.
Yeah, exactly. I would even go as far as saying, like, even more of a backstory. Eclavdra, as powerful as she is, because this is also the area 9 through 12 here, let's just say, because Eclavdra is going to be involved with this as well, because you're probably going to meet up with her, and I would think she's going to escape in some shape or fashion. But I would think Eclavdra, as a backstory for her, this could be revealed later, who knows, somehow fell out of favor with Lolth. So she found some other dark entity to give her power, something even more powerful than Lolth herself. And she found out about Rentak, the elder elemental god, and she was able to build up a following, a cult built up around the elder elemental god. Some drow in her clan, maybe, or if not her clan, maybe other drow who were cast out from other clans. Even maybe she's trying to form her own. Who knows? But that's a way you can, maybe this is a way for her to gain revenge, to gain power, to not only revenge, but show to her clan back later on in module D3, say, look what I have done. Look what I can do, and you need to kneel down and worship me and worship the elder elemental god, and then dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Whoa.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, so. Anywho, and that's some of the background. Everybody, to let you know how I found out about this, is on a great website called Cannon Fire, which is like the internet repository of everything that is Greyhawk. And they have a download section of their area called Orth Journal, and it's in journal number 12, where there was an interview back in 2001 with Gary Gygax, and he talks about this elder elemental god and how it ties in really with the whole giant series, because you read through the whole description about this elder elemental god, and then you think of the giant series like, oh, now it all makes sense. And just a little snippet of information about this elder elemental god. Priests, clerics who worship this thing, they can also have powers over one of the elements in particular.
Did you I forgot to ask you, Nick, do you have a link to that journal so we can share for the people listening at home?
Yeah, I did put a link in the near the very beginning on our chat area, but I can link that again for certain.
I have it, so I already got it in the show notes, so that'll be there.
So you can look that up.
Cannonfire.com website.
Cannonfire.com website. Absolutely.
Cool.
So this is right from Gygax's lips himself.
Oh,
So you can't get more canon than that, unless it was a big old howitzer. But what I was going to say is these Rentox clerics, like I said, they can also get minor knowledge of all elements or focus on one element in particular. Now, where have I heard that for? Elements. Oh, yeah, the Temple of Elemental Evil, folks.
don't tell anyone.
That's right.
Damn,
It's
you were surprised.
Rentok is behind the Temple of Elemental Evil. So there is a tie-in between T1 through 4 and the Giant series.
Dun dun.
You can make it just some huge, really cool arc against this elder elemental god. I think that's just epically cool and coolly epic. Sorry. So, but for me, that's the one area along when you meet, Yclavdra and the rest of her buddies in this area where it almost culminates right here, So, and all these other things like the wall of tentacles that you encounter. That's one of the that's a spell that you can get as a worshiper of Rentok. The lesser tentacle and greater tentacle rods. That's part of that.
Creepy.
Yeah, creepy in itself. Very much so. Very nasty bad guys to go up against. So, and a lot of this information also, and I think we can, I don't know if we could put this in a downloads area, but somebody a while ago did a compilation of all the deities of the world of Greyhawk called Deity Base. And if we can make that available to everybody, because it was a free download where I found it, and it's been a huge, wonderful resource. And you can look up Vilp Fakchu Rentok and what his worshiper. Yes, thank you. and
it depends. Or is it their take on it, or is it actual fact?
No, this was adopted from the original Orith Journal article from Gygax.
I don't know, Matt. What do you think?
Well, we can share it and just have people make their own call on whether or not it's something they want to integrate in their game.
Yeah, I mean it could. I mean, I think if anything, it's another good resource.
Right. I mean, realize this was not anything that was an official release, but just more of Gary wrote some stuff and people compiled it and organized it. So it could be an interesting read. So why not?
Okay. There you go. So we'll put that up there, and you guys can download if you want to use it or not. Should be free available for you. So we heading down to level 3 now?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Yeah.
If you survive to level 3, has anybody made it to level 3? Did he say?
I know in my Hackmaster campaign, the Hackmaster version they actually got to the very end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, level 3. It's I don't know. I think with level 3, the interesting areas are you got the vaulted cavern where there's a charmed and what has an illusion on it is a Gorgon to look like a huge sleeping red dragon.
Yeah.
But the treasure cave next door actually has the huge red dragon, Brazimal.
Some nice treasure in there, though.
Yeah.
Which leads to the question, all the stuff they've accumulated in these 3 modules, how are they moving this stuff around?
Don't air.
Big bag of holding. There we go.
Yes, big giant bag of holding.
Yeah. Well, I thought if you read through the description of Brazimal, he's kind of like the AD&D version of Smaug, because he could see he has 666 base 1 gold piece gems embedded in his stomach. Who had something similar to that, of course, Smaug from The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a wink and a nod, a little homage to Mr. Tolkien without encroaching on his estate. I also thought the stinking caverns were interesting because you have a total of, nearly 50 trolls.
It's a piece of cake.
It's some trolls. Come on.
50.
Regenerating 3 hit points around. If you don't have enough fire or acid or Lord knows what else to kill these things.
Well, you're in the home of
that's gonna
fire.
be-
You're in the home of fire giants. There should be fire everywhere.
Well, I would be tossing them in the vats of lava or, in the lava tubes if I could. Because I don't care what party it is. That's a chock full of regenerating creatures in those 3 areas. That's just going to be tough. Just tough.
Let's not forget the singing chamber in case you have a character that likes to, chant and sing like a bard.
Oh, yeah, and talks too much. The singing chamber where it echoes everything around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
And the gray ooze that inhabits the pool.
Mm-hmm. And it's a twin on the other side.
Yep.
That's a real good one.
It's kind of just
yeah, this one is kind of random, and I think that's what would throw kind of characters for a loop, because they got through the previous level. They probably went through that temple, found out everything. They're probably really beaten up by this point. And if they haven't rested, they're going to be this is like the 1-2 punch. They don't know where it's coming from on this one. You got the gray oozes, you got some more giant, all these trolls. Then you got more drow, like Area 16, where there's one of them who's armed with this special magic item called a demon staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the demon staff. Causes fear to whoever it touches. No save.
Yeah.
4 to 24 hit points of damage. Only be healed by 1 full day of time per hit point. And call forth a type 1 demon or turn the holder into a type 3 demon for 5 rounds.
So let me ask you a question.
No charges. Each of these works once per day. No charges on the demon staff.
So the demon staff, it says, causes fear to whomever touches it, right?
Does that include the person who wields it?
No, probably not. But I'm thinking if they kill the drow, and then they go to pick it up, are they feared because they're touching it?
I think that's a thing where the fear is caused as it's an effect that you call up from the staff when you touch somebody. Yeah. It's not like it's automatically on all the time because it only happens once per day, like every other effect from the demon staff. Okay. Yeah, I think that's how that's supposed to.
So you don't need fear insulated gloves to hold it.
Right. It's like you're gonna touch somebody and go booga. Okay. Exactly.
That would be actually slightly amusing though if you said just whoever touches it, wielder included, has fear. So you have this drow whole wielding it, but totally in fear.
Yeah, it would be. But here's the thing about it: no charges because each effect you can use once per day. Still really, really powerful because you could either, do the hit points of damage, cause fear, call up a type 1 demon, or turn yourself into a type 3 demon. So, yeah, I don't know if I'd want the party to get a hold of this.
Well,
type demon is out of there.
Yeah. Well, once you start turning things into demons or summoning them as a party, I would say the demon probably doesn't like you that you summoned.
No. Yeah, I think it kind of alludes to that here, that if you summon it, I think there's a chance that he might turn upon its summoner.
Yeah. Or if it turns you into a type 3 demon, who's to say you wouldn't also get the alignment of said demon?
Right. Maybe over time, each time you do it, you become more demonic. And eventually you'll permanently turn into a type 3 demon. I don't know.
Cool.
That's how I would do it. And then there's the Jeweled Cavern where, I don't know, just lying around with the Dark Elves is an amulet of the plains. I mean, really?
And not to mention the Mind Flayers in the room as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's Mind Flayers. 3 of them. Because, it only gets better by here.
Was the purpose just to kill everybody in this module? I mean,
I think by level 3, like I said, you're so battered and torn and beaten, and you got all these other. You got this, monster mash of different monsters on level 3. I mean, you really got to be on your toes, healed up big time, and I would have like 100 rope trick spells on scrolls ready to go if I need to be rested up every time. That's all I could say. And then you come across, the last area, which is the River of Lava, where there's the bridge that goes across, like a pontoon kind of bridge sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then that you have a chance of getting messed with by some salamanders that are playing in the lava. But after that, you have the possibility of coming across a scroll case with a wish spell in it and a map. So
wait, just stop right here. Another wish.
So that would come out to be in the whole G series, if you count the first 2 rings of 3 wishes, and that's 7 wish spells if you haven't exhausted them all already.
But at least they give you a way to get to the next series if you want.
Right. Because it was maybe accidentally dropped, the map, which leads to other more deep areas into the earth.
Or D1.
Yes.
So at this point, you can either jump to the D1 module, or you can follow along with us to G4, which Thor Camera has provided to us, which we'll review on the next episode.
Yeah. So there's lots of avenues that you can pursue with this series.
Very interested to see how Mr. Thor Camera ties G4 into the series.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be too hard, because if you read, every module has stone giants in it. So I would think if you wanted to bring G4 into it as maybe one of the stone giants, maybe you captured one of them and interrogated them and find out where their lair is. And then you could tie it into G4 that way. We'll see what Thorhammer has to say about that. I think it'll be very interesting. So, but I just love all the different lore that ties all this together with this elder elemental god, and you can make one hell of a campaign arc if you want to as a DM.
So next time you'll join us will be Sanctum of the Stone Giant Lord.
Yeah, G4. It'll be very, very cool.
So join us next week, and keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org, or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.